Are car doors actually bulletproof? According to commenter Sean, no they're not, and the science seems to back this up.
No, it didn't stop anything.
Despite what movies say, most bullets will pass right through a car door. But we seem to be getting ahead of ourselves again. My name is Isaac, and this is my editor, Angus. Our boss just sent me an email saying that we need to make this show more attractive to a larger audience, so... Angus, do you want to throw up those photos I sent you?
Oh, I hate this job.
Anyway, we're in charge of the esteemed
Comment Response Division.
And today we're checking out your answers to the question, what fact ruined a movie for you? But before we start, we have to admit something. When we wrote this question, we meant behind the scenes facts. Something you found out that impacted the way you saw the finished film. Like how Tom Cruise really broke his ankle in Mission Impossible Fallout, or how Isla Fisher almost drowned on the set of Now You See Me. But we phrased the question ambiguously, which is our bad, and people answered in all sorts of different ways. So excuse us if this episode is a bit more chaotic than usual. With that said, let's just jump into it. Just Another username says, the 20-mile long runway in Fast and Furious 6. If you don't know what we're talking about, the climax of Fast and the Furious 6 takes place on an airport runway, as the heroes attempt to stop a plane from taking off. The problem, most estimates of the speed the characters are going means the runway would have had to be 26 miles long. And that doesn't make a lot of sense, as the longest runway in the world is only around 3. Simon Cordell says, the fact that Indiana Jones has no impact on the outcome of Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. Before we talk about it, we should acknowledge that, as several of the replies pointed out, this has been mentioned on The Big Bang Theory, and before that, it's been talked about for years on the internet.
How can anyone ruin Raiders? It's perfect.
But if you're unfamiliar with the theory, the idea is that the ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark would have happened regardless of Indiana Jones's involvement. At the end of the movie, the Nazis open the Ark of the Covenant and are instantly melted by the power inside. Indy has just been trying to stop them from getting the Ark the entire movie, but maybe he just shouldn't have? Maybe they would have taken it back to their leaders and opened it, thus melting even more Nazis. And you can always melt more Nazis. In fact, Indy could have taken this approach in most of his movies. Liberating the children in Temple of Doom obviously doesn't count, but in Last Crusade and Crystal Skull, the villains destroy themselves by finding the mystical object they were searching for. And half the time, Indiana is forced to lead the villains to the object, or just leads them there anyway by accident. Maybe it's a good thing that Indy retired from the archaeology business, though you have to wonder who's taken up the mantle of fighting Nazis and yelling,
That belongs in a museum!
So do you!
10,000 subs says that Johnny Depp doesn't look like Jack Sparrow in real life. Does he not, though? I think he looks the most like him that someone can, aside from this one guy I went to high school with. I guess Johnny Depp's hair isn't like Sparrow's, but his facial hair is pretty similar most of the time. And he dresses a bit like a pirate, or at least more than most celebrities. A lot of people don't look like the characters they play. I mean, look at Mike Wazowski. Billy Crystal doesn't look anything like Angus. No. Stop. Okay, we've all had some fun this video, but it's time to address the elephant in the room. Remember how we said we phrased the question a bit weird in our initial post and confused everyone? That's not the only thing we did wrong. We also made the mistake of posting an image that referenced the end of Titanic and how Rose should have been able to fit Jack on the floating piece of wood. In doing this, we broke the #1 rule at Screenrant HQ. Don't reference the floating scene from Titanic. As we should have expected, almost every single comment was about this. Most people pointed out that it wasn't a space problem on the piece of wood, but a problem with Rose's and Jack's combined weight. This led to dozens of references to the word buoyancy. It was never about fitting, it was always about buoyancy. I hate this. Yes, the door's big enough for two, but buoyancy was the issue. Fitting is one thing, floating another. Buoyancy, people. Y'all ever heard of buoyancy? To be clear, we don't blame any of the commenters. We just should have not invoked this scene. This was completely our bad. Just thought we should acknowledge that. And moving on. April says, my dad can do a calculation in his head where he can tell you what day of the week any day in history was. I remember him having us leave movies when I was a kid because they got the day wrong. In his opinion, if they couldn't take the time to fact check what day of the week it was, then the movie didn't deserve his money. You'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. Wait, what day is tomorrow? What day of the week? Wednesday, why? Just curious.
Wednesday? God damn it! Come on, kids, grab your popcorn. We're getting out of this. God.
But Dad...
No buts, April. This movie's a piece of trash.
JetPlane says Sonic only runs 300 miles per hour in the live action movie. That ruined it for me. Good point, but we have a counterpoint. While it's true that Sonic is only clocked at 300 miles per hour at the beginning of the film, you have to assume he's going a bit faster during the scenes where he's able to more or less stop time. And as pointed out in an article by Screenrant's very own Corey Burcham, Sonic is canonically able to move faster than the speed of sound. But the video games don't let him go that fast because controlling him would be literally impossible. Similarly, it wouldn't be much of a movie to watch a blue blur who's going so fast he's unable to interact with other characters, but maybe that would have been more interesting than watching him ride around in a car with James Marsden. Are we allowed to say that? Is that controversial? And now we have a comment that is entirely in the spirit of the intended question, but is also depressing. James says, definitely the fact that the snow in the classic movie The Wizard of Oz was actually asbestos. While this is true and undeniably irresponsible on MGM's part, thankfully none of the actors from the film are known to have developed illnesses due to their exposure. Still, at a time when movie studios are continuing to risk the safety of their cast and crew, it's important to remember the film industry has a bad habit of pursuing profit above all else. Thank you, Disney. Throat Wobbler says, my ex-wife telling me the twist of The Sixth Sense as I sat down to watch it. Hey honey, what you doing? Oh, just sitting down to watch The Sixth Sense. Oh, is that the one where Bruce Willis turns out to be dead the entire movie? Honey, I want a divorce. Dr. Death says, Padme, what happened? Obi-Wan, he killed the younglings. When Ewan put his hand over his face, it wasn't because of acting, it was because the directors told him to after he couldn't stop smiling / laughing at the line. Angus, roll the clip.
Killing younglings.
Okay, so we looked into it and we couldn't find a reliable source for this information besides memes. That being said, we can't argue that it looks like McGregor is trying not to laugh in this scene, or that watching it with this in mind makes the scene a lot funnier, especially when he uses phrases like security hologram and younglings. But we find it hard to believe that the filmmakers wouldn't just grab another take. I mean, McGregor is a professional actor who has been delivering Star Wars jargon for 3 years at this point. Why would this be the thing that set him off? Smells a bit fishy to us. But we're the comment response division, not the spoil everyone's fun division, so we'll let this one go, I guess. Legantic says that Palpatine was just thrown in the 9th Star Wars film. It was a last-minute storyline change. Yeah, that was disappointing to see that interview with Daisy Ridley, but we can't say that we were too surprised. The twist seems to come out of nowhere and added very little to the story. From top to bottom, The Rise of Skywalker appeared to have a troubled production, from the loss of Carrie Fisher to the firing of Colin Trevorrow, and the revolving door of writers that worked on the screenplay. It does make us wonder, just like Legantic did, if it would have made sense for Disney to have more of a plan from the very beginning, which some Star Wars filmmakers have hinted was not in place. Events like Carrie Fisher's passing obviously could not have been predicted, but I think Rise of Skywalker made it clear that there wasn't much of a roadmap to begin with. Bit of a shame. Yuri says, Buzz Lightyear acting like a toy around humans, even though he was convinced he was an actual space ranger. Now, this is a very good point, Yuri. This doesn't make any sense within the logic of the movie. Buzz should absolutely not go motionless when he sees humans if he doesn't believe he's a toy. I used to think this was an unconscious reaction on Buzz's part, but I forgot about the end of the movie where Woody fully talks to Sid.
So play nice.
So this is a legitimate plot hole. But this plot hole is an example I use when I want to argue that plot holes don't really matter. I never think about this Buzz idea while I'm watching the movie, and I probably wouldn't have even noticed it if I hadn't read it on the internet. And despite this glaring inconsistency, Toy Story is a beloved family classic that spawned one of the great animated series of all time. Every movie has plot holes and contrivances, and as a viewer, sometimes you just have to go along with that. Here at Comment Response Division, we don't like the idea that the best best movies are the most realistic. The things that really matter are character and story and theme and filmmaking technique. Does this detail really matter when Buzz is such a great character and the movie around him is so effective? Anyway, that's our slightly scatterbrained episode for this week. If you'd like to see more comment response division, you can find the playlist on the Screenrant channel page. And if you'd like to leave a comment for a future video, head to the community tab or leave a comment below. And as always, subscribe to Screenrant for more heated debates about buoyancy. And if you've made it this far in the video, comment down below, buoyancy is a lie?